started. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. We're going to give our presenters an opportunity to go through their entire presentation, but then we certainly want to open it up to any public comments or questions that you might have about the information that you're going to be seeing this evening. As you're going to be seeing, we're going to be talking about phasing. This is entitled a phasing presentation, and the reason is really to explain about the timetables involved in the construction, what phasing means and what it's actually going to look like for all aspects of the grounds as well as the interior of the building as well. So there's a lot in the presentation. We want to make sure we get through it all, which is why, like I said, we want to go through the presentation. And if you have questions on a particular slide and you can make a mental note of that, you want us to go back to it, we're happy to do that as well. So we're going to get started. We have 3 people who are here this evening to do the presentation for you, starting with the individual closest to me, Henry Morello, who is from Dewey Engineering. Dewey Engineering might sound familiar to some of you. They were the chief engineers who were responsible for the township and the township construction projects as well. We've been working with Glenn Harris, who is a landscape architect. Glenn is primarily responsible not only for stormwater management issues, but also for design of the components of the project. And then David Schrader, who is the chief of Schrader Group Architects, who we've been working with. They've done a number of other K-12 projects in the area, including Bristol Township, Upper Merion, which is currently under construction, and also Phoenixville, among others. So I want to turn it over to you guys, and thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to it.
Well, thank you for having us. Hi, good evening, everybody. As Dr. Hacker said, we're here primarily to talk about how this project is going to be phased. So basically, where the contractors are at what period throughout the construction. So as many of you have probably seen, since I know you live close, there is some activity starting on the site. Although I didn't drive around to the other side of the site before the presentation, I understand the site contractor is starting to bring equipment in and everything. If that didn't happen today, it'll start over the next, I'm getting head nods over there, so we've probably got equipment on site. And they're going to start putting a shovel in the ground probably over the next couple of days. So I'll talk to you about that and what you're going to see on different parts of the site working around the school. But also one of the things we wanted to start with was to re-familiarize you with the project so that you know exactly what's going on. And then as Dr. Hacker said, we can answer questions later. So, overview of the project. We're putting an addition on the building, and then we're also doing interior renovations and a whole lot of site work. Starting in May and ending primarily in December 2019. So there may be some closeout activities going into the spring of 2020 just to finalize site punch lists and things like that. Obviously, as we get toward December and January, we're finishing up the building. And those elements right around the building and some of the site work, we obviously want to wait till we get a good growing season in so that we can punch list those items. So some of that will go into spring 2020. But by December 2019, you'll see the project is primarily finished. The site and the athletic fields will have a phased completion. And what we did, we broke down the phasing into 5 primary phases from that May to December period. That coincide with the athletic schedule. The reason for that is so that fields can be used during construction or throughout construction. And then the building will have phase completion, which has 2 primary phases coinciding with the school years. Some of the things that are going to be happening as far as the site is concerned, a lot of grading and site work, a new site entrance, which will be down along the stadium, will be the new primary entrance. We're putting all new parking lots in. Reconstruction of most of the existing site features, all new playing fields, including 1 additional synthetic turf field. And I say additional because the interior stadium work was completed in 2017, last summer. An entirely new stormwater conveyance system around most of the site. The new regulations are much more stringent than they were the last time a project was done here. So we're doing everything we can to minimize water leaving the site because that is a new requirement. So we're trying to keep as much water on site as possible, letting it infiltrate and meet all the environmental regulations that we're required to meet. Also doing new sidewalks and many new roads. There's actually going to be a loop road around the building now, so you'll have complete access all the way around the building. And then the majority of the existing roads are going to be milled and repaved. So the ones that aren't getting changed we'll mill off the asphalt, put new wearing course down, so the entire site, when the project is done, will have nice new roads and parking lots throughout. And then finally, we've got some limited off-site road improvements, some work that we're doing on Paper Mill Road. We're moving some fire hydrants, we're putting in the new entrance, so a portion of Paper Mill Road will have to actually be milled and repaved as well, and we'll take care of that as part of this project. I'm going to hand it over to Glenn here to do a basic site description.
So before you can understand the phasing of the whole project, we wanted to make sure you had a good view of what the end result of the project is going to be. That's what this site plan rendering is the proposed design when it's all finished. And Henry will go through the various steps in phasing to get you to this point. You're not there today. And so let me just describe the elements of the site plan. First of all, the existing building entrance is located right here, and the site entrance is located about in here where it comes around the corner of the school into the sort of roundabout area at the front of the school that's hard to see the entrance from the street. So one of the major things that we're doing with this project is we're moving the site entrance down to this location, which is immediately adjacent to the stadium. And by doing so, first thing that's going to happen is the site starts to open up where the entry point to the building is visible, and we're moving the parking from where it currently exists here over into these areas where it's adjacent to the front of the school, so that you'll be able to enter the site off of Paper Mill Road. There's a lane going in and 2 lanes going out for a left turn lane and a right turn lane going out. And it'll skirt right along the edge of the stadium. There's a really big oak tree that's on the site that's going to be preserved, and the driveway is split to go around that oak tree, and an oval area for the entry point to the building, any drop-offs that are in the middle of the day, close proximity to the entrance. You'll see in the parking lot area there's also ample areas for drop-off opportunities adjacent to the proposed addition to the building, which is located right here. Dave Schrader will discuss that a little bit more in a minute, but that's where the proposed building addition is located. And the parking will be adjacent to that with drop-off areas immediately next to it. More drop-off areas on the other side of this oval. So that in front of the building, what you don't have today is convenient access to the front. You'll have ample access in many locations for that when it's all said and done. You'll see that we're also proposing to connect the driveway around the school where it doesn't exist that way today, so that it's kind of a confined one-way situation that you have going on now back to Hawes Lane. Creates kind of a bottleneck of traffic. What we're trying to do with this design is open the site up so there's more flexibility of movement around the building. This driveway will be connected from this lower front parking area to the parking area that already exists back here right outside this room. We will be making improvements to that parking lot area, however, as well as along this edge of the parking lot. And the other athletic fields are located around the perimeter of the site. This will be the varsity baseball field located in this vicinity. This will be the multi-purpose field that will be turf athletic material like the stadium that was just put in last summer. It will serve field hockey, boys lacrosse, and soccer in this area on that turf stadium field, or turf field. To the area that's kind of up on the plateau right now, there will be the JV baseball field, which will have an overlapping outfield condition for soccer to run in the opposite direction. And some track and field events will be up in here. The throwing events for javelin, discus, and shot put will be up in this vicinity as well. 2 softball fields will be back behind the facilities building here, at close proximity to each other. And there will be some retaining wall along this edge. Some of you probably know how much slope there is going down to Erdenheim Elementary School. So there is a retaining wall that's used as a part of that outfield, and there's outfield fencing associated with that. Currently, the tennis courts, which are located down here, will be relocated up into this vicinity here with 5 new tennis courts and a practice court off to the side of it as well. So those will collectively make up the athletic functions on the site and provide for all those events to occur around the perimeter. The bus activity I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about driveways. Currently the buses come in and stage in this vicinity here primarily. They will do so still with this design. However, we have made improvements to the driveway, changed some radiuses, and made it more convenient, more capable for the buses to navigate in and around the school, 2 buses side by side, passing each other in different directions and such. The athletic areas will all include dugouts and backstops and the fencing that goes along with all of those features as well. The entry point, as I mentioned, is located here, where the existing entry is back in here for your point of reference. And I didn't mention at the beginning, but this is Route 309 up here. I think that kind of sums up the way the site plan ends up.
Sure. Actually, Dave's going to talk a little bit about the addition.
So a little more background on what's going on in the building, because Henry's about to talk about everything you'll see going on the perimeter, and obviously that's where most of the earthwork and larger equipment's going to be moving. But you will see HVAC, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and GC vans and so on gathered around the site at various times during the project, and that's because we're doing a couple of things in the building. This is the actual media center area or library area. This is the gymnasium, and that's your swimming pool. So just to give you a sense, that right now is that entry point into the athletics area of the facility. The interesting thing is, and those of you who are using the building regularly remember that up on the second floor where the library is, that's also where the girls' locker room and the swimming locker room is today. Girls' swimming locker room. On the ground floor is the television studio, and so what we're doing as part of this project is flipping those two. So there's going to be a time during the project where we bring the girls' swimming locker room and then the girls' locker room down into the television studio and then the swimming locker room area, so that all of the locker facilities for all of the athletics are down on one floor, and that's going to be a big improvement for everybody who uses the facility. In so doing, we'll be taking the television studio from the ground floor and bringing it up to the second floor where the locker room is. So now the television studio, most of which in high schools are located adjacent to libraries, will now be adjacent to the library. So there is work that'll be done to make both of those things happen. Additionally, there are HVAC, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and electrical projects that will go on in various areas throughout the site. And we have a phasing drawing somewhere in here that describes that as well. So you'll get a sense of how the contractors will move around the inside of the building to do some replacement of unit ventilators. The unit ventilators and the heating and cooling equipment on the outside wall, some of the big rooftop unit equipment, and then lighting. You'll see contractors working in the summer times on those various portions of the project. So while you won't see as much of this because it'll be happening on the inside, the students will certainly experience a little bit of that. However, we'll be cordoning off areas where the actual construction will be happening to be keeping the students safe and out of any kind of construction way. So what Henry was getting at and Glenn was getting at is this is a second gym or an auxiliary gym addition in the corner where you currently walk across from the parking lot along the sidewalk, come around the edge of the pool and up to the main entry, or at least that's how I come into the building. And so there will be a new entry point to the athletics here. There will be a new access point from all of the athletics and all of the locker rooms out to the fields from this point, and the gymnasium will sit on the corner. So if you were standing here, you'll see a view in a second of what you start to see of the new gymnasium. And we'll also show you a view looking into the main entry and a view looking into that secondary entry coming in from the fields. So the new gymnasium on the corner, This is the existing gymnasium. There's the existing pool. There'll be a little bit more prominent entry now to the gymnasium complex and the athletics complex. It'll feel a little bit more like the front door, although the front door of the building will still be very prominent. So that's the gymnasium from basically the baseball and athletic fields against Paper Mill Road. The upper left-hand corner is, we're going to more or less call that kind of our wall of fame area. So trophy cases as you come in for all of the athletics in the district. And that'll be on the left-hand side is where your existing pool structure and pool locker rooms are. And that's actually where the visitor or public locker rooms are. And on the right-hand side will be a new area that will contain the athletic director and the training space. If you were coming in from the other area, on the right-hand side here would be the existing gymnasium, and there will be a new fitness center kind of between the auxiliary gym and the new gym. So that's a view of how that'll look coming in with the masonry units and the new finishes and so on. So the inside of the auxiliary gym, it's a secondary gym to your primary one. You'll see that they will have smaller pull-down bleacher areas, and the intent there is to allow visitors, small team groups and so on. It's not a large capacity gymnasium. And then this is looking the other way out. And then the fitness room, which sits in between the auxiliary gym and that corridor I just showed you, will have equipment throughout with some cardio and some weight equipment. And then there's a training classroom for athletics that will be taking the place of the area that is currently the athletic director as the athletic director gets pulled out. So just to give you a sense of what you'll see as the project moves along. And I think that goes to the phasing portion.
It does. Okay, so I apologize. These drawings are a little muddied up because these are the actual drawings that were given to the contractors for construction. So I will try to explain them to you the best I can. And again, if we need to go back and look at something, I can certainly do that after we get through. But just to orient you again, this is the same orientation. Paper Mill Road is here. This is the existing building, the existing pool, the existing gymnasium. So right now, your entrance, your parking lot, this will all be maintained. So now this phasing says that it's going to happen from April to June. So over the next couple of months from now until graduation, the contractors will be in an area pretty much between the stadium and the parking lot, and then also behind the field house up to that, the JV baseball field. So they'll be working in this area and they'll be working in this area. And they'll be getting that, until graduation, they'll be getting that prepped. They have fenced in the entire area so that they have separation between contractors, students, and staff to hopefully keep everybody safe. And the sequence of construction was originally going to start in this area and kind of move up toward Paper Mill Road. What we're doing now is actually to make sure that we can get the, sorry I'm laughing because the guys from athletics tease me about this, the field that's going in here. In order to make sure that that field is ready when sports camps start or just a little bit later, certainly before the school year starts, to have that new field ready, they're going to start by putting this infiltration basin in. So that's what you'll see being dug over the next 2 weeks as you're driving down Paper Mill Road. They'll be digging in this area. They will jump right from there. That'll take about 2 weeks. They'll jump right from there to this basin. Again, another 2 weeks in that area. They will be staging a lot of their equipment. They'll be using the existing roadway in here and be staging a lot of their equipment in this area, kind of just beyond between the field house and the school. And then once those two areas are complete, then they'll jump back down to this area and they'll create, this is a new, what's called a bio garden, which is actually a retention pond, but it also has all types of kind of water-loving plants in there. And this is a temporary sediment basin. Again, an environmental requirement to make sure that no dirty water leaves the site. It gets collected in here, the silt settles out of the water, and then that way only clean water will leave the site. So they'll work in this area, and then they're going to move up and they're going to do a basin up here. And then from there was actually another basin added up here. These will also be, again, underground infiltration basins. So again, this is what's happening over the next 2 months between now and graduation. What we're doing is we've already worked with the contractors, so a few days before graduation, what they'll do is kind of stop digging, stop working, and they'll start preparing the site so that we can be ready for graduation. So we will have access through here for cars to come in and drop off any handicapped folks or handicapped family members that might need access into the stadium with wheelchairs, crutches, that kind of thing. And we'll have some handicapped parking area for them. They can work in the staging area. Well, of course, as you know, during graduation, just about every parking spot in the district is used to get people in. So we're going to hopefully open up some areas that will have fenced off and a nice walking surface so that people can get from where they're parked into the stadium for the graduation ceremony. So again, this is going to happen for the next 2 months. And then, excuse my French, but the day after graduation, it's kind of going to be one of those all hell breaks loose things. Because once graduation is over, what the contractors are going to do, again, the stadium is down here now. Same orientation, Paper Mill Road, this is the stadium, this is the existing school. So right after graduation is over, the contractors are basically going to take up not only this area behind this should be pretty well done by that time, or maybe a few weeks later, but they're going to take over the entire site along Paper Mill Road, or basically between the school and Paper Mill Road, and then between the school and the stadium as well. So they're going to go in there. They've got an incredible amount of work to do. So again, from June through August, during the summer period, the goal is that they get the new turf field in, they get the new access and a majority of the parking in front of the building. And what they're going to do initially is they'll only put a base course of paving down. They won't put the finished wearing course down. So they'll put a base course of paving, which is kind of that rough, bigger rocks that you see. They will stripe it so that everybody can park. And we will have some temporary roadways so that there will be good circulation so people can still come in and park and leave. So again, the turf field, all the new parking and entrance, and then what they're going to do is by the end of the summer, they're going to add some fencing so that before students come back to school, this whole area in front of the school will be closed off for contractor use. So they're going to use that area in the old parking lot for staging and phasing. When I say that, when they're bringing in steel, they're bringing in truckloads of equipment, they've got storage trailers, they've got all that kind of stuff. So they're going to have an area fenced off here. They're obviously going to have this area fenced off where the new addition is being built. And then what they're going to do is they're going to pave over some of these islands in the old parking lot and put up jersey barriers to create a path for the buses. So they'll actually put a temporary roadway in here to connect the parking lot and the circulation road. So the buses can still come in and stack along Springfield Way.
Will that also be open to non-bus traffic?
Probably not during the day, no. So once they leave at the end of the day, it may be, but for the most part, it'll be closed. So, because we've got a lot of contractors and everybody walking across that. So yeah, so this will be, and actually, you know what, I can't say that for sure, but I'll have to check my notes to make sure that.
For those of us at Erdheim, that's often an access path.
Sure. So that's going to happen during the summer, and at the end of the summer, again, they're going to be out of this whole area. This area will be turned back to the school, and then the contractors will be primarily concentrated in this area close to that new addition. The next phase, August to December, so this is the fall phase. What they're going to do is I think a lot of people know that this is the parking lot right behind us here. This is the entrance into the freeze lobby where we are right now in that area. So this is a high point of the site, kind of right through here. There's a ridge in the site. And this temporary detention pond that I was talking about, that has to collect all of the water during construction that really flows from this side of the site down. So what these site contractors are going to do is they'll have this area fenced off, and they'll have this area fenced off as well, and they'll be working to install a softball field and one of the baseball fields, partial multi-purpose field, until they can kind of at the end of this phase, they'll start to remove that sediment pond and finish off the multi-purpose field down there. All of these fields will be sodded, so that the rule with sod versus grass is grass has to have 2 full growing seasons before you can play on it. Sod only has to have 1. So what they're hoping to do is to get this sodded so that in the spring they'll be able to use that for their sports. So for baseball and softball here, and of course a lot of the other multi-purpose field. From that point, it's really just working their way around the site. So from December to June, they will be working behind the building, so right behind us now, between us and Erdenheim. Of course, December through February and March, not great months to work. So really this will be March, April, May, June is really when the primary work will be done. Of course, if they have a mild winter, they'll continue to work. If not, you may see a break. But what they'll do back here again is fence off the area, continue to construct the second softball field. There's again another now infiltration basin that they'll be putting in the back. And then once they get that infiltration basin in, they'll put the tennis courts over that. The next phase, what they'll be doing is, and again, this is now from June to August, so this is next summer. They'll have pretty much the run of the site, so they'll be finishing the circulation roads. They'll be reworking the parking lot right behind us here, to Springfield Way. They'll be doing the widening work on Springfield Way, and then connecting the loop road and finishing the parking lots out in front of the school. The goal here in this phase is to now demo this old parking lot and move the contractors into a much smaller area in front of the building. Now we've gone through 3 semesters, or basically a year and a half. So the contractors will be mostly done with the addition. They won't have all that equipment and storage trailers and everything like that, so we can confine them to a much smaller area so they still have access to the addition, but they won't be all over the site. And then what the plans are is to fence this off and get ready for the final phase, which would be August to December, which would be to get in here, finish this field, and then again, August to December, sod this field, so that field will also be ready for play in the spring. So that's the general site phasing. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, after December, again, they'll be putting a lot of this in toward the end of that growing season. They'll be putting the sod in, that kind of thing. They'll be cleaning things up, but into the spring of 2020, you will see some activity out on the site. Most of the activity in the building by that time will be complete, because the addition will also be complete in that December, and then hopefully right after the new year, the kids will be able to move in and use that new addition and all the new facilities. And the other phasing that David had mentioned, we've got mechanical upgrades and also lighting upgrades, electrical upgrades. So all of the lighting in the entire building is getting replaced. This wing here, which we actually refer to as Area F, but this entire wing, all of the ceilings are coming out. It's getting a complete new HVAC system and ductwork and everything in this area. But most of the rest of the building is getting unit upgrades, not so much unit replacements, other than the new part of the building. So the way we're phasing this is during this first summer, on the second floor, we plan on doing all of the lighting replacements and a lot of the HVAC upgrades for these areas of the building that you see shaded. And then next summer, they'll be moving into the remaining area of the building, so the first floor in these areas, and then the second floor in this area. And they'll do all of the remaining lighting replacements and mechanical upgrades in those areas. And now I think that's it. So that's it. Now, if you'd like me to go over what we're doing inside the building, do you want me to do a quick rundown of that?
If they want to see what's
Okay. All right, so that's basically, again, from being outside the building, that's what you'll see. So they're really just starting in the front corner, they'll be working their way around. Yes?
In the phase from August through December of this year, you're going to remove the sediment pond and what's now the practice field, over where the tennis courts are, over in that area.
Correct.
What will be there to absorb, retain any runoff, extra water, extra stuff coming off your property?
Okay, I will go back there and, okay, so This is the temporary sediment basin. So as it says, that's a basin, so that'll actually be down in the, what there is there's a temporary connection from that sediment basin into the storm sewer, but that has about 2 or 3 different levels of controls to make sure that no water, no dirty water especially, gets out of that area.
It's a very small storm sewer. A very
Understand.
small sewer. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Is there any way of either expanding that so that we don't have the flooding that comes from that?
Well, what's going to happen is all of these, and Glenn might be able to explain this a little bit better. I'll take a shot at you correcting it.
Luckily, I know more about
But
this than I wanted to.
This big basin here,
Yeah.
that's actually an underground infiltration basin. So between these 2 basins, all of the water, again, there's kind of a high point here where the existing road is coming in. So all of the water in these areas, including the water off of the building, the stormwater off of the building and the new addition, is all being collected into these basins and it infiltrates into the ground.
It's not what we're talking
I'm
about.
talking about the water coming in off the mound that was left there when they built the elementary school.
So you can talk about the mesa, I guess.
Yes, that's a nice word for it.
Right, so the water here, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
Glenn, I'll let you.
Yeah, let me try to answer that. First of all, the controls that are present here today, there are a few underground pipes that exist in there that are holding some water, but it's not the level of controls that this sediment basin will provide. So the sediment basin will be in place throughout the duration of the disturbed area that's occurring up here. And that sediment basin is sized such that it handles not only the dirty water coming into it, but the storm events that the state makes us include for a sediment basin, which I think is up through the 25-year storm. Then in addition to that, there's the rain garden feature that's off to the lower level of that. So there's really 2 belt and suspenders types of stormwater systems that are provided here over and above what's there today. The township engineer, in the course of our design for this project, did scrutinize the downstream pipe connection. We had to provide rate control cutbacks in these 2 basins such that the release rate going into that 18-inch existing pipe, we had to demonstrate that that 18-inch existing pipe could handle that flow. So that occurs during the duration of the disturbed area that's there. When all the disturbed area is gone, like Henry said, the sediment basin goes away, but there's still this feature that's there, as well as the collective number of underground systems that are there under the paved area up further north.
Water garden is good, but will that have the slowing release system into the pipes? I'll call it sewer system for shorthand because I'm not specialist.
Yeah, no, this is a basin. Yeah, this is a basin as well.
A lot of these systems are both infiltration as well as rate control basins. So what that means is the bottom compartment is going to act for infiltration. There's a certain volume requirement that we have to achieve for the state guidelines. That's happening in the smaller storms that up to the 2-year storm event, we're basically capturing the difference in runoff between the pre-development and the post-development. But the 2-year storm event, soaking it into the ground. But those basins are also sized such that they're handling the flows for higher storms and an outlet structure that has different hole sizes in it. So as the storm rises for different storm events, it's controlled by that mechanism for rate control into the piping system that it discharges.
Thank you.
So they will stay then? They will stay?
The rain garden will stay, the sediment basin will not. The
Right.
sediment basin's function is primarily dirty water, and you get more runoff when this is all bare than when it's stabilized with
Here's
grass.
my question, when that's filled in, when you have the rain garden, there's a filtration system underneath it will be there? More than
The
what
rain
we're-
garden infiltration system will be there,
Right,
yes.
and that's better than what we're, I'm asking because we do flood.
Right.
And that's why our concern is there.
Right, that's there permanently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sure. Yes.
I apologize if you covered this already, but did you describe what would be happening on Paper Mill Road with respect to turning lanes and the shift in the traffic?
Yes, and let's see, this is probably the best. Okay, so let me go back to the final site plan.
That just shows the existing structure.
Oh, okay. So what's going to happen now is, as Glenn said earlier, there is a left and right turn lane leaving the school, and then there's the lane going into the school. What this has done, I know that you can see there's 2 lanes here right now. Now this is the existing stripe. So this is where the existing entrance is to the school. There's those little pylons that you have to kind of drive around when you get out of the school. So what happens is you will have a stacking lane, which will be a left turn onto Route 309, and then you'll have a passing lane. But instead of just being 100 feet long now, those will be more like 200 or 300 feet long. So you can stack up certainly a much larger amount of cars there and still have that passing lane to get around it. So people won't get stacked up as far back on Paper Mill Road as they do today, past the school and all the
Conversely,
way.
then coming off of 309, there will be a single lane of traffic that will pass the entrance to the school,
Oh, I'm sorry.
or will there be a turn lane into the school? separate
You're saying
from
here, so
traffic
coming
that's going
coming
straight?
off of here, yeah, and yes, there will be a passing lane here and then a turn, it's like a deceleration lane to go into the school.
There'll be a traffic light.
Yeah, traffic light, yeah. There will not be a traffic light. No.
The ability to gather speed for the kids coming in.
Well, I mean, the speed limit's 35, so,
Traffic light can-
you know.
Otherwise, the people coming
Right.
on 309
I understand, that's an issue for the local police though, not for the school district, so, yes.
How's it, there is a light at Hawthorne, which is prior to the entrance to the school coming
Correct, yes.
that way.
Yeah, it's down.
Have you done studies at all about how that is gonna,
Yes, the traffic design company that was hired to do the work here for the school was the same traffic design company that did the work for Hawthorne, so that will all be coordinated, or has all been coordinated as part of the design. Yes?
I have a different question. On the multi-purpose field and the softball field that you're putting
Right
behind
here.
residence homes where that mesa is and all that,
Right.
will there be any lighting on that once you're done?
No.
Good.
There will be lighting on the new multi-purpose field, but that's the only additional
The other
lighting
side
that will
of the
be in the
stadium.
project. Right. Yes.
how did you arrive at 2 softball fields and 2 baseball fields? It seems,
I think that's, we have 2 softball, 2 baseball now, I believe, and I think we were just, and of course, improving the quality of the fields by moving them, constructing them properly, that kind of thing. So we didn't, I don't believe we've added any more fields than what we have. They're just rearranged a little bit better and so that they can work together during spring and fall sports and those type of things. We don't have any overlap and of course, they'll be constructed properly this time around. Yes?
So I have a question about, I mean, this all looks really great, and but it seems like most of the new things that are happening are athletic based. Are there any things that are being done to improve the academic experience?
I'm gonna have to let the school district answer that, so
I can answer that.
sure.
Well, first of all, we believe they dovetail, because research shows when students are involved in extracurricular activities,
Yes.
they do better in their
Of course,
academics.
yeah.
So apart from the TV studio, which is part of our academic program, so is physical education. We have many more students who are going to be coming into the schools. We've got a significant uptick in terms of the population coming into each class,
Yeah.
entering the grades. So we need more athletic spaces, not only outside, but particularly inside, hence the auxiliary gym, the new fitness area, which is going to be larger and will be able to accommodate more students, and it won't be just directly on concrete as it is now.
Okay.
The locker rooms to handle the visiting guests, as well as the new toilet facilities and so forth. Right now, we simply don't have adequate space for the population we have, knowing that population is increasing by about 50 students a year for the significant future. It's a pretty significant increase.
That
we're going
being
to be
said,
seeing.
or not to cut you off, but that being said, knowing what happened like with the Erdenheim build out, do we have the facilities academically to house the students in a classroom setting so that we don't get into 25 kids in a classroom?
We do, and generally the 25 kids in a classroom here won't be because of the classroom space, which we have ample space for here in the high school. This is actually right now the least utilized building of all of the buildings that we have on campus. So we're not anticipating that we're going to need extra classroom space, but we really do need all these other spaces.
Then technology-wise, are we upgrading, is all the HVAC and the electric stuff, is that going to be technology-oriented as well? Is that going to
Well,
impact that?
yes, we're getting energy controls and everything so that obviously we're hoping for the bang for the buck. In fact, Mr. Thorne, you're here. Mr. Thorne is our facilities director. He can talk about that, how the actual controls and everything that we're putting in should pay for itself over time. You want to talk about that quickly?
They really will. Yes, the technology definitely will be there. We started all this process too, just for the background, is with a feasibility study. So we studied the whole district to determine those needs, where those needs were. We surveyed all the population in the school, asked them what their biggest needs were, and that's how we generated this project. So yes, everything will be the latest and greatest technology as far as lighting, HVAC.
Oh, I meant technology for the students, not the lighting.
Well, all our students currently have their own computer that we provide them, so they're not going to miss out on any of that as the result of the project.
Okay, and then my last question, I'm sorry,
That's
my
all
last
right.
question is related to security.
Yes.
So as that's always on everyone's head anymore with the
Every single
Right.
minute of every single day.
So during this process, how will security be maintained for the students and staff, you know, during the build out, and then on an ongoing basis, is there going to be additional security in place in the building as a result of this new setup?
Well, currently there's,
Good.
I'm sorry?
Additional entrance.
Well, there will be additional entrances, but just in general, what will the condition of security be?
Currently, there's no access into our building unless you are buzzed in. You can't get into any of our doors in the building. That'll be the same with any new entrances that are put in. You have no access. You have to be buzzed in and let in by someone physically. And everyone is badged so that we know who they are. They go through our Raptor security system in order to ensure we're not letting anyone in with a criminal background. So all of the same security procedures that we currently use will continue to be in place. As we go through the project, if we do feel there's an additional need in any particular area, we'll ensure that we have the appropriate either personnel or technology that we need in order to bolster that area as well. But no one can get into the buildings currently unless somebody lets them in. You can't just walk into any of our schools.
Right.
Dr. Hacker,
Yes.
as well, we're upgrading the existing security camera system as well as adding several new cameras.
Right, good point.
So, yeah, we do have
We have
security.
cameras all over on the outside as well as the interior of the buildings as
Good.
well.
I'm sorry.
Just a quick question related to that though, about the new entranceway. Are there any modifications to the entranceway to the building
Well,
itself?
the entranceway to the building won't be changing. It's the same location.
It is gonna be in the
It's
same
the same
location.
exact
So we
location.
still have
We have a
the security
security
desk.
guard there, yes, still monitoring in that location.
Okay.
Let me just take this question only because I saw.
Real fast, how many students are currently in the high school, and what's the projection for 5 years out and 10 years out in actual numbers?
Chuck, do you have the number offhand? It's
Hi,
about 650.
I'm Chuck Rittenhouse, I'm the high school principal. Thanks for coming to the meeting. We have about 660 students, and we're looking at about another 20 to 25 a year.
Actually, it'll be more than that over time. Currently, what we have coming into Enfield, and we've had the same rate at Erdenheim up through about 4th grade. In fact, we just are hiring an additional teacher because 4th grade has increased significantly. We're going from class sizes of around between 150 and 165 per year to about between 200 and 210 per
You're talking
class.
about another 50 per year per class, so you're saying in another 5 years, it should be about another 250 students?
It's possible.
Yeah, there's some.
Now, what we don't know is, of course, we do have a drop-off sometimes in 8th grade when students make the choice to go to LaSalle or the Mount or other private
What percentage
schools.
is that generally?
10% would you say, or is it less?
Maybe less than 10. I would say 18, 19, 20 kids a year. at Mount St. Joe's and
You're gonna
Germantown.
have maybe another 200 kids. You're going from about 660 to maybe 850, 860.
Yeah, but that's
I mean,
a third of our,
my daughter's sixth grade class, I feel like it's been like around 200 since then.
Yeah, we're seeing classes of 200, and at one point here, 25 years
but
ago,
from
there
165.
was a,
Like a much bigger school then.
yeah, it was a
Yeah, no.
1,200 kids, so we have
It's
grown.
really small.
What we looked at in terms of our projections, which also helped us with enrollment figures, we actually looked at the actual numbers, and over the past decade, we have a little bit over 2,600 students currently in the district. A decade ago, we had 2,000. And every year it's been steady. We actually commissioned the Montgomery County Planning Commission to do a demographic study for us about 5 years ago. And they looked at census figures and mobility rates and all of that stuff. And that's exactly what they predicted. Everything that they told us was going to happen in terms of the population increases has been happening every year since.
And we extra classrooms that we have, one's a copy room, well, we have 2 copy rooms, and they're classrooms with a copier in them, so we can certainly convert those back to a classroom.
No, I wasn't concerned about that. I taught for many years. I believe in EC. I know the importance of EC activities. Just a huge amount of focus on athletics when there are other EC activities. And some kids love sports, and other kids, there's nothing you can do to get them interested to even attend a game. So I mean, it just seems like a huge focus on the athletic end of it, and there's so many other EC types of activities.
Don't forget, we also are the location of many of the township events as well. So we're housing and we're preparing not only for our own school kids' populations that are using the fields, but we also have many of the leagues in the community which are also utilizing our fields constantly.
But we're paying for it in school taxes, and that can be an issue. This is a huge school tax, a lot of money being spent strictly on athletics.
Is this
I
being paid for
understand
by
that
school
that the gym may need to be upgraded. You know, it's probably original equipment and the infrastructure, but all the parking lot and the this and the that, it's hurtful. I'm going to be honest, and every kid deserves the best education that his or her township can afford, but this isn't going into the academics. And that sounds not
I'm
happening.
sorry, there was a woman over here who just had her hand up for half an hour. Yeah,
The tunnel access to the
Yes.
middle school and the high school,
Right.
you didn't mention it in the construction phasing. Is it gonna be-
yes, that's actually, that area is relatively untouched. Again, not this summer, this coming summer, but next summer, there will be some road widening happening in there, but all the ramps and steps and everything associated with that tunnel are staying pretty much the way they are. So that area is relatively untouched. Yes?
Hi, are there going to be any improvements made to the swimming pool area other than the relocation of the girls' locker?
Well, yeah, the location of the girls' locker room, of course, that interior stair is coming down now. That won't be needed anymore.
So does that mean that the girls will have to walk out of the swimming pool area?
No, there's a new swimming locker room for girls that is being improved. In addition to that, there are 2 community, what are called community locker rooms, boys and the girls, that are also being renovated in the pool area. So that work is being done. And then it's also getting a new lighting package. So all of the lighting in the natatorium area will be replaced as well. So, yes.
This question is more directed towards Dr. Ritt and Mr. Ferrara. Currently, with the layout of the athletic fields, we have what I'll call 4 large playing fields, one being the stadium, the field hockey field, and then the 2 soccer fields up here at the top. And with the new layout of the fields, there's only 3 of those. So particularly during the fall season, a sort of conflict arises with practicing on those fields. With I'm going to assume football is on the turf in the stadium, field hockey being on the new turf field, and then that leaves boys and girls soccer that need to practice with only 1 soccer field existing. So how would that?
So it's going to take a little bit of creativity in our department. I'm Joe Farrar, by the way. I'm the assistant athletic director currently. Next year I'll be the full-time athletic director. It's going to take some creativity for us. There are some grass surfaces like the outfield of the baseball field you'll still be able to use. All of that space is kind of, we do currently our JV field up top, the outfield of our JV field is our varsity boys soccer field. So we'll still be able to use some of these areas during the fall season. The fall is our tightest schedule. We have 9 teams, basically 4 that you mentioned, all use a rectangular space. We've done a pretty good job already scheduling games so that we don't have 3 events all at once, so that no one has to feel displaced. But we're being creative in utilizing some of our grassy areas in our baseball fields so that teams don't feel like they're feeling the pinch of, well, now I don't have a field where I did last year.
And then also on days where you have an away game and the other team, if soccer doesn't have a game but field hockey's away, they're off the field. So you can use that. And you also, there may be a later in the day practice. It's a great question. And with the lights, it gives you the ability to do that later in the day or to kind of rotate and, you know, they also may have to share the field. You can do split fields, you can rotate the fields, you can practice later in the day. Again, with home and away schedules when one team's away, and seasons end and begin at different times. But it's a really excellent question. Yeah, really excellent.
The other thing to add to that is 2 of those fields are synthetic turf. You get much more playability out of those fields. You can play within 15 minutes to a half hour after a rainstorm. You can play on those fields. So it's not, you know, you won't have nearly as much downtime from things like that.
And in the past, over the summer, as you know, being an athlete, we've had to shut fields down because the grass was just dying. And there's nothing worse than a soccer coach hearing, I'm sorry. And that happened with the community soccer people. We had so many games and practice on the upper fields, the field gets worn out. It's not in great condition to begin with. And then, you know, by the 2nd or 3rd week of September, we have to tell the community, you can't practice here anymore because it's wearing the field out, which with synthetic turf, that doesn't happen. So.
I have a question about the tunnel real quick. So will that affect the middle school kids drop off when construction and everything is going on?
I don't believe so. Where do they drop off? Do they drop off on Springfield Way?
On Springfield Way.
Yeah, I mean, that whole area behind the school will remain open to, I mean, the Springfield Way will still be accessible for drop-off and pickup.
Okay.
And like I said, I've got to double check. We're actually going to close it off during the day. And I would think we'll try to leave it open as much as possible, but there may be some times where certain construction activities.
Meaning dropping off to the middle school during the day on our side and kids walk out? I don't think
No,
that'll be the same.
No, that'll be fine. It's a good question. Yeah, no, that'll be fine.
Okay,
I just want to say, I think curb appeal, people underestimate curb appeal, and I think that this facility, as a graduate in 1997, nothing has changed other than the turf field, so I want to compliment the group on coming up with this plan because our township needs it, our kids need it, and you have not seen, I mean, it's in dire need of what we're talking about. If you could rattle off a few of the high points for the academics, maybe that would help the crowd, you know, just the extracurriculars inside the buildings that are so great. I know that the theater group, I think, is going to nationals. Tell us.
yeah, our thespians do go to nationals every single year. They go out to Nebraska. They compete with other teams. This year we had over 100 students on stage as part of our high school musical. We had the Festival of the Arts the other evening. I don't know if you were here for that, in the outer lobby, and the entire lobby area was filled with student artwork. We have the National Art Honor Society induction coming up shortly.
You and I, Dr. Hacker.
Our music department is absolutely phenomenal. Every year we have kids who win awards throughout the entire state.
And we also,
Robotics.
so our robotics team won the, I guess, whatever that New Jersey championship, whatever the official title is, and it's become very competitive. This is our first year, inaugural year. We, Mr. Ortiz, formed a mock trial team, which we never had before, so it's our first year for that. It's our first year we have a coding team, we have Mrs. Pierman, so you know, that academic piece, we've had a lot of firsts the last couple of years.
At this point, over 85, and we keep statistics on this, so we do gather the data, over 85% of our students are involved in some club or activity, either any of the ones I just mentioned or including the athletics outside of the building. 85%, which is a huge, huge percentage for area high schools, and as you just heard, many of them are award-winning within their own areas, particularly in competition with other high schools. And we are small. We don't draw from a large area. We're not like a Quaker town where we can pick the best and the brightest to play on all of our teams. So we offer opportunities to a lot more kids. Of that 85%, 65% of that group are involved in more than one activity. So we think that helps to contribute to the fact that last year 100% of our kids graduated. Not every high school in the area can brag about that. So we're very competitive. We're surrounded by a lot of private schools. We understand the concerns. You know, yeah, we're spending a lot of money to do all of this, but we feel it's well worth it for the community in general, not just for the kids in our own.
The other academic piece, and it was touched upon, and thank you for bringing it up, is the TV studio is very nice now. It's going to be much improved. It'll be a little bit bigger. It'll be a little more technology. We do morning announcements every morning, 5-minute morning announcement. That's the highlight of my day. The door locks automatically at 7:45 with the welcoming desk in the morning. And then I sit there and I watch the kids do a live broadcast in the morning, and that will be much improved. Dan Meader and Marlene Thornton are rock stars, and they went to NFL Films a couple weeks ago and got to see where they do all the NFL highlights. And the Greenfield Film Festival, we once again did very well this year for having so few kids, and we're very, very proud of the academic program.
And actually, I mean, just one more thing, there is a new theatrical lighting package as part of the lighting replacement as well, so.
Yes.
I have, I think, 2 questions, but I also want to make an observation before I say them. I was at the Festival of the Arts. My daughter is very active in theater and the music program, as well as the athletics. It constantly amazes me and impresses me that a school this size puts together such an amazing arts program. There were, 5 different vocal ensembles, jazz band, concert band, and every one of them sounded spectacular. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I counted, that's what principals do. We got 104 of our 660 kids were in that concert.
And for the 5th year in a row, we just announced this at the board meeting and had a great presentation. All the kids from all of our music programs across the district came, because for the 5th year in a row, we just won an award from the National Association of Music Merchants. We are one of the top 500 schools in the country in terms of music participation and education for our kids. So those are all things that we can all be proud of. Yes.
I have a comment about, I understand paying taxes towards the school district and the use of fields in our community. As a parent, as I have 2 kids that go to school here and play in community sports, the fields are needed. I mean, it's a matter of thinking it as it's mostly kids in our own school district that are using the fields outside of school on teams, and it's keeping them out of trouble. They're in community sports. So I understand where you're coming from, but I just wanted to put it out there. And as a parent, like, I appreciate having that space. We don't have kids in school. I understand that. Did you at some point though?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's always an issue. We understand. Yes.
Will you just remind us of what the lighting restrictions are on the stadium, and if they're just about usage, and then also with the new turf field, will there be lighting restrictions as well?
Just anything that was in existence in the past still holds, despite the fact that there's turf. So I believe that the lights can't remain on later than 10 o'clock at night, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the ultimate, that kids have to be off, the lights have to be off by 10 o'clock.
Is there a restriction? I'm asking because I don't know, but is there a limitation on the amount of days per year that those lights can be on till 10 o'clock?
There is, and we monitor that in terms of when we do our schedule. Do you remember the number? It's 100 and...
So to be honest, I don't have the concrete number. I'm Dan Ortiz. I'm one of the assistant principals. I also work with Joe with athletics and oversee activities as well. When we go ahead and plan the team schedules for the whole year, in addition to some of the academic events that we have out on the turf, we do look at kind of a year-long view of it all, and that's prior to entertaining any outside organizations' applications to use the turf and to use the stadium. We're very conscious of it, and the short answer to it is we have about 5 home football games a year. There's oftentimes 1 or 2 night games for soccer and for field hockey, 1 or 2 night games for boys and girls lacrosse, and those are, for the most part, the only events that the school uses the stadium at night for. And there's still the high school, and there's still plenty of extra allowances left in there. We fell well short of these.
Just by a comment about that, and I don't want to, say anything against the people that live near the stadium, but this expense it's for the township, and it is hard to drive by and see the expense and know that, and you see other townships that are utilizing their stadium at all times, and it's just, I just throw it out there as a comment that it would be nice to have it being utilized a little bit more.
The agreement dates back to a couple decades.
And that's kind of why I was asking, because it's like an urban myth. Nobody knows, and we're not even getting.
I do.
Okay.
I was part of the original agreement. Of the 8 families that abut that field, we were there before they put the lighting up. We had a zoning agreement with them as to how often they could light. If we allowed them to have high enough, tall enough lights, we didn't fight the zoning agreement, so those lights could be angled down, so the spillover from the light would be minimal to our property. With the new lights, they've been adjusting them, but the spillover is more than it used to be. We do have a limitation on those lights because we live there. And I know you could go over 309 and you can see everything from Upper Dublin. It's lit like a Christmas tree all the time. But you need to understand you are next to people's homes. So with all the money going in, that's why I asked about night lighting, because that's my house. So there's the other answer to that. We went from no lighting, all day games, to night lights and night games, and there is a limitation because you do have a community living next to those fields.
And I just asked what that was.
No, but I'm
unknown.
explaining that it isn't unknown. There's a written agreement. The school has it and we have it.
The agreement was actually made with the residents who live on Fraser Road because their properties back up against there. So it had to do with...
So it's a private agreement? Is that what you're saying?
It was a private agreement. It was entered into with the lawyers for the school district 3 superintendents ago, and lawyers, I believe, for the residents as well. And it focused on the number of evenings, what time the lights could be turned on until, and so forth.
And when does it expire?
It doesn't.
How could the school district enter into an agreement like that?
I can't answer, like I said, 3 superintendents ago, Kate, so it probably was when you were here as a student.
It probably was.
So just talking about financing of all this, and someone brought it up earlier, but I know that our township buildings were all just built by selling off our sewer. And I was just wondering how this is $30 million project is being financed. Is it through our existing school tax plan, or is there going to be a tax increase?
So I'm going to let Mr. King speak to that in detail, but I can tell you in the shortened version that yes, it's financed through school taxes. We incur debt over the long term, just as we do for many of the capital improvements projects that take place throughout the district. We try to minimize the impact of what that debt is going to mean for residents. So for example, this year, the state actually limits the tax increases that we can impose on residents. It changes every year because it's based on a number of economic factors. So for this particular year, you can't have more than a 2.4% tax increase.
Which we saw.
Okay, so we are now at about 2.07%. So we are way under that index. We're actually, at last look, one of the 5 lowest in the county of all of the school districts. That's including the debt that we have incurred so far for the project.
Okay.
So Ken, I don't know if you want to add anything, but...
Certainly don't want me to go into detail.
No, I just wondered if there was another like sell-off of some sort, or if it's being financed through our traditional tax program through.
The one thing that we're hoping will happen, in case you're unaware of it, there is supposed to be some new property that's coming up on Ridge Pike, I believe, the TC tract. And we're hoping that that's going to get started, because once that is developed, the atria and so forth, that brings additional assessment revenue into the school district, helps us offset any of the debt payments that we have every year, lowers taxes.
Yep, great.
Okay. So Ken, I don't know, do you want to add to that?
That's exactly right.
That's what we look at.
We've been preparing this for a while now. We've been looking at our expenses as we move along, and we're trying to curtail growth in other parts of the budgets as much as possible. We are using, the board has used fund balance. They have a more fund balance set aside to help defray some of these costs. Dr. Hacker is correct. We have borrowed almost all of the money that we need, and we've already built that into the budget with 2 tax increases ago and this tax increase. And those tax increases were right around 2%.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, the board and the administration is trying like heck to keep the tax increases at a, nobody likes taxes. I don't like taxes. I pay taxes too, but we want to keep them at a minimum, a reasonable amount, and continue with the education. Prior to talking about the facilities, we did a lot of improvements into the educational program with additional supports for kids, so those things were being funded. So now, with these projects and the TT development, we're good. We're going to be able to keep the taxes at a low rate. We're going to be able to do what we need to do for the facilities and for the educational program. I mean, there is some moaning and groaning from directors and principals about budget restrictions and things like that, but we're holding off until the TC property. Probably going to be finished development in part in 18 months, completion probably in 36. So by then, when that tax revenue hits, we'll be good to go.
And then the thing about the lighting, is there going to be night lighting on the other turf field as well, or is it just on the stadium field?
No, there will be lights on the new turf.
There will.
Also in the baseball field?
And then, is that the same lighting agreement as what we were talking about?
No, because there are no residents there.
Okay, so
Isn't there lighting on the baseball field too?
No lighting on the baseball fields, no.
Was there consideration of making that baseball field turf instead of sod, like the intermediate field in the stadium?
There was.
And what was the reason as to why they cost?
Yeah, a baseball field is, I think, about 2 to 2.5 times the size of a rectangular field, even a large rectangular field, and so it goes past $1.5 million, I think, just for the turf alone. So.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we didn't say yes to everything.
Yeah. To be concession
Yes.
Yeah, there's some stadium.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Paper Mill Road is a PennDOT roadway, so anything that you do or don't do on that road is dictated by PennDOT. So even if you ask for a light, they will not allow you to put one there unless you meet certain, what are they called? I'm sorry, warrants. So certain warrants. So you have to have. I understand, but
They don't come to township meetings. There's also,
I think there is, but nobody.
No, it says do not block the intersection.
I know, but nobody pays attention.
Nobody pays attention, but stop your own.
Yes.
A much easier question.
Oh, good.
This whole presentation, will you have it online so we can?
We will. We put all our presentations up on
Because
the
there have been
website.
ones in the previous ones, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, they're up there. In fact,
You told me that they just sold their.
I'm the board member, Jeff Bedard.
Okay, so they're now going to be on.
Yeah, they're on there.
On the.
They're it's alphabetical, so you may not find school construction project at the top. But yeah, it's going to be up there. Oh, yeah, you bet.
What was that question? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
She wanted to know whether or not this presentation would be on our website. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we always put them up, so it was up there. Yeah, I can't promise you that one was 4 years ago was up there, but most of them was up there.
Has there been any consideration as the facilities, are being improved? Has there been any consideration of working with agreements with other local facilities to use them? Like I know that like for instance, Chestnut Hill College goes down to Colonial for a lot of their athletics. I believe LaSalle actually goes to Colonial for their football.
And to us. And to us.
Is there any look to maybe get some more of that?
Yeah, we
Get a little
actually
bit of
have
revenue
had
from
those
that?
conversations, and we've talked about trying to have meetings with other organizations, colleges, other high schools, and so forth in the area to see if we could start working on that.
Would that be a revenue source for us?
It would, because they have to rent the fields in order to use
Yeah,
them.
we
LaSalle
have-
currently does that.
Yeah, LaSalle's using it for a home football game.
Yeah, we have six
McFadden.
football games currently scheduled for this fall season from outside organizations. They're all paying us to use the location.
All night games?
No.
No, all day.
I think about that MOU when I schedule it, I promise.
Plus,
I know it's 25.
Coach Rittenhouse always likes the private school parents to get a look at the field too. I like them to see what
Student
they have.
attention.
Yeah, so.
If I'm following along correctly, that means the baseball field and the second softball field won't be ready for next spring.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there plans to work around that?
So yeah, currently this current spring season, we only had, well, what we thought was only had access to one baseball field. So we mirrored our schedule. Anytime that varsity baseball was meant to be home, we sent our JV baseball team away to the opposing site. So we're just going to do that for the following spring for JV softball and for JV baseball. We'll kind of mirror those schedules so that way we only host one team at a time.
And the same with the ball sports when,
Yeah, correct.
So as Dr. Ritt alluded to before, I'm a student athlete here, and as an athlete, I use the current weight room and fitness center very often. So I've looked at pictures of the different designs for the new weight room, and I'm just wondering how the size of that weight room compares to the current one. Because in the current situation, if you've ever been in there after school, it's extremely crowded, very packed. So I wanted to know how the size would affect that.
I can't speak to it. Go
So
ahead.
our current existing weight room is about 3,000 square feet up top. We are going to keep that space. It's going to turn into kind of a functional fitness area. We're going to redo all the flooring in there. We're going to put a turf inlay in. We're going to be moving our batting cage from the gym up to that. It'll still be retractable, so it won't be in your way. The new weight room that's going to be in the new addition to our building is about 2,800 square feet, I believe. So we're going to add an additional 2,800 square feet of strength equipment, of cardio equipment, plus you will still have access to the space upstairs. So it's two new locations.
And to that point, the new weight room, the design layout is going to be much more logical, where in the current weight room you have kind of a long skinny corridor and then another long skinny corridor. This will be a much more open space to maximize the space that we do have. It's a great question.
When the fields are rented out, how significant is the rental for the season?
It's based on a formula. It really depends how many people are coming, depends which field it is. So there's a whole formula that we have actually that we use in order to determine what it is that we charge them, how long they're going to be there, how many people we will need to clean up after them because we have to pay custodians and so forth to be there, security and so forth. So they're charged accordingly. They pay for all those services as well as the actual rental of the field. So for example, playing on the turf football field is going to be pricier than paying on one of the softball fields. So it all depends on what it is that they're renting.
How significant is the rental to the overall budget?
Well, one-time use is not very significant, but if they're rented over and over again, or we also rent our interior spaces to outside organizations as well. Our auditorium, we charge for that if an outside group comes in. So we have a whole fee schedule. So over the course of time, that's actually a source of revenue that's built into the budget.
And it offsets the cost of maintenance and other.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that, yeah. Well, they pay for that maintenance for it and for security. Yes.
In addition to that, there will also be PIAA events, which are ticket sales and so forth. Does that all go back to PIAA?
So it depends. Regular season contests, we keep that and then it goes into the general fund. Postseason contests.
They were used instead of.
So if LaSalle were to come down and use our stadium and sell tickets, that would be LaSalle's revenue. They would be able to keep ticket sale money and anything they sell in concessions, whether it's T-shirts or anything like that.
Yeah, you talked about all these good numbers with enrollment and how it's going to be on the increase here.
I'm sorry.
You talk about all these good numbers and how it's going to be on the increase here. How did you come to the conclusion that there is going to be more of an enrollment here? Just by looking at just by looking at numbers of the incoming students from Enfield?
As I mentioned before, we had the Montgomery County Planning Commission come in and actually do a demographic study. They look at significant statistics such as the census rate, birth rates in the community, real estate sales and so forth, and they're able to plug that into an algorithm and they're able to determine predictions based on those figures over the years. And every prediction that they made so far for the past 5 years has come true in our district in terms of the increases.
Okay, understood. And you say that there's about 85% enrollment rate into these athletics. Besides that...
No, not just athletics. 85% of the students at the high school participate in any type of extracurricular activity.
Okay, now here's the thing to that. I believe it's a Commonwealth mandated statute requirement for school districts to have each student perform a certain amount of required physical education per each year. Would one of those physical education requirements be just not doing the gym as a regular period class, but also going out on the field in the athletics department?
We do have our physical education students do go outside. They use the tennis courts, they use the fields as part of their physical education program.
Okay.
So they're in both our interior and our exterior spaces.
Okay. With Springfield Way there, is there going to be still 2 lanes open for car traffic while this project is going on?
I believe, Mr.
For the most part, yes. It will be closed off at certain times.
Now, is there going to be any adding of any lanes, any car traffic lanes there, or is it still going to remain 2 lanes?
No, it's going to remain 2 lanes.
Do you believe that your traffic there on Springfield Way with this construction project, you believe that's going to impede on traffic of slowing it down, so when people have to come up and make a left or a right down by Kimball Mill Road, that would impede any traffic, it would make the traffic any bit slower and blocking the roadway, or what?
You mean during construction or after construction?
During construction.
Well, yeah. I mean, there will be times when Springfield Way will be closed when it needs to be for construction. But for the most part, we'll try to keep it open and used as close as possible to the original use.
Okay. Now, since you mentioned that, would there be any part where, since it might impede on traffic and make it slower, did you guys do a traffic study with PennDOT? Because that is a PennDOT road. And if that's going to be slowing down traffic there, you might want to go ahead and consider going from the Board of Commissioners if you haven't already. And
It's all been done.
It's all been approved by the township.
Been several traffic studies done on Paper Mill Road regarding traffic. We're not required to do a traffic study for what happens on site, but again, the use of Springfield Way is not changing significantly. So.
Okay, and when have they came back with PennDOT about the traffic studies? Did they say to, well, we need to install a secondary light here?
No.
No.
No?
We're not
Okay.
required. That was
And
the
last-
same thing that.
And lastly, what you did not talk about whatsoever in this presentation, what is the estimated, or do you actually do have a final cost of how much this whole project would be without considering emergency operations that might occur throughout this project?
Are you talking about construction costs or?
Construction costs, yeah.
I believe the construction cost, and again, Ken, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, 20, what was it?
The construction itself, all in, all costs, construction, soft costs, design, engineering, specs, everything is going to be roughly 32.3.
Melanie?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that'd be all my public comment.
Just one more question on the building design. With the new things that are happening in the aquatic area, is the pool going to be, is anything going to happen to the pool itself? Like, I know the swimming program is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. My kids both swim, and but will they? Are there any improvements going to be made to the pool? I know that they have to do a lot of things like with the board, and that are kind of outdated with the board, and like with the mechanics of that, or the technology associated with putting things up on the board and utilizing it, and then also like the touch pads and just the general temperature of the pool and things like that.
We work on the technology
Okay.
with the outside groups that actually rent the facility, and we have conversations with them about any upgrades that need to be made and make determinations about where the money's going to go.
So is that outside of this project, or that's
Yes,
just
that's
something else?
outside of the
Okay.
project.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, pool wasn't included, yes.
Did the number of parking spots change?
The Glenn, number of parking.
It did, there's a small increase. It's not too significant, somewhere around 20 cars that have increased loading.
And we actually have to conform to township requirements about that also. You have to have a certain number of parking spaces.
With the increase in students.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it going to be easy enough for the clean up after large snowstorms, or how do you guys deal with that? 'Cause before they kind of plow all to the corner, it's...
Fred, I'm going to let you handle that one. I just close the schools, I don't clean them.
Plowing is a challenge, it always has been. Yeah, well, there is limited space to put snow.
Do you have access to loaders and stuff?
We do, we have in-house loaders, dump trucks, so once we clear all the accesses and parking to get everybody in, we actually come back around off hours, use our backhoe, fill the dump truck, and take it to different areas that we can actually dump and store snow. Yeah, so always a challenge.
What kind of savings are you going to see with the changes in the mechanicals of lighting? Your view of the savings over what is now?
We don't have an exact number, but we are going to all LED lighting from this conventional lighting, the HVAC, same thing, all the upgraded equipment that we can get. We're working with Pico with their smart idea, their incentives. Oh yeah, absolutely, yes. For the stadium and the boiler, we just replaced boilers and our chiller. We received several $1,000s back from Pico. They say if you put energy equipment, efficient equipment in, we'll give you rebates. So we're working with them right now. Should be pretty substantial, but an actual 10% cheaper, 20% cheaper a year. We're hoping somewhere, in that area. So yeah, the return on investment on this equipment is a quick turnaround as well. It'll pay for itself sooner than later. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any reasoning why synthetic turf was used instead of real turf on the football fields?
Design, ease of getting on the fields, as was just described, after bad weather such as rain and snow, longer playing seasons for everyone, so we could get the teams out there, so our teams could be more competitive. Those were the longer durability, less maintenance per year. Those were all reasons we looked.
Did you also consider that the health of students may be at risk?
We did. We looked
Using
into that. We did significant health studies on the turf.
Yeah, because when we fought, it caused bodily injury. Very much so.
So is grass when kids fall on the grass. So we looked at all those factors. Anybody else? Yes.
How is this going to affect the carnival?
So, as of now, as a Rotary Board member, we unfortunately are not going to be able to have the carnival any longer.
Just Brooklyn.
Now, that being said, it was canceled for this year, obviously because of all of this going on. We are looking to investigate another site. We want to bring back the carnival. First of all, it's a huge fundraiser for Rotary. All that money gets donated to polio and other things that we're involved in. So we definitely want to bring the carnival back. The question is where. Enfield has been mentioned, some other sites have been mentioned. So the goal is to bring the carnival back in this year. We just don't know what. That would bring in good revenue. Thank you. Oh, yes.
I just want to say, I know I've been talking a lot, but I just want to say I'm really excited about this, and I think it looks really positive, and I like the forward planning about the potential enrollment of the school, because I see in all of these neighborhoods that, you know, people are moving out, older retired people are moving out, younger families are moving in all of our neighborhoods, and I see it on my kids' bus route alone, but there's buses bursting at the seams. There's barely enough room for them just to get on their bus, and just knowing that you know, flows up into this level, I think it's great to see this kind of project, and I do believe in the athletics and other activities combined with your academic life, supporting a more well-rounded students and all that. So I think this is a great idea. I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
As a parent with a couple of kids coming up, so yeah.
Thanks. We appreciate all the comments, and we appreciate all the questions. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. If you have any additional questions, we're here. Thank you.